reached agreement on the guiding principles, standards, criteria, and procedures of the Brics expansion process, which has been in discussion for quite a while. We have consensus on the first phase of this expansion process, and other phases will follow. We have decided to invite the Argentine Republic, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates to become full members of Brics. The membership will take effect from the 1st of January 2024.
Nations in the Brics economic group have agreed to a framework for expansion. That's according to South Africa's foreign minister. Current members of the bloc are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But more than 40 countries have expressed interest in joining, from democracies like Argentina to autocracies like Iran. Specifics of the framework are expected to be announced on Thursday when the group finishes its summit. Here to explain what this may mean for the United States is Alexandra Sharp, writer of Foreign Policy's World Brief. Alexandra,
thank you so much for having me.
Thanks a lot for being here. So what does this mean? Why the rush to join this grouping, and how should the U.S. think about it?
So I think the largest theme when it comes to looking at the expansion of Brics is primarily focused on the effect that will have on Chinese and Russian influence on a global scale. You know, the United States is hoping to seek stronger ties with nations in Latin America, with nations in Africa, by expanding its membership to include nations in those regions, along with other areas of the world. That could encroach on the United States' efforts to bolster its own ties, while at the same time improving Chinese and Russian influence abroad.
And that's why Xi Jinping was there at this meeting, where people were taking, were carefully looking at his appearance at this meeting. So what is the U.S. trying to do to counter that competition, essentially the competition with China and Russia, with these other nations? What's the U.S. trying to do to counter that threat?
A lot of that has to do with engagement. So the United States is hoping to provide these nations that are up for possible membership in Brics with an alternative, to side with the United States, to side with Western institutions like the International Monetary Fund, with the World Bank, rather than coinciding with the new development bank under Brics, rather than utilizing the yuan for trade instead of the US dollar, which is, of course, the current currency that is primary on the global market. The U.S. doesn't have any particular executive orders or legislation out to counter any decisions made from Brics, but the Biden administration is absolutely paying close attention to the decisions that are being made, and just the length that Chinese officials and Russian officials are willing to go to pursue their own influences and gains.
And so Brics is an economic alliance, but of course economic ties, as the Treasury Secretary and others have said, are what keep countries from turning into conflicts, or at least helping countries like Russia with their conflicts that are against U.S. interests. So give me your sense of the militaristic impact of this group's expansion and how those are related.
Well, they say that countries that trade together do not conduct war against each other. That was one of the primary ways that U.S. and Chinese engagement has centered over the last few decades. Now what that looks like is if Russia, if China, if other Brics nations establish stronger economic ties with these aspiring members, that could lead to greater military collaborations as well between them. You know, you look at Russia, which is trying to shore up support in Africa in its war against Ukraine. Now, by establishing more firm alliances through Brics with countries like Algeria, with countries like Libya that are seeking membership, that could in turn lead to arms deals. That can lead to greater Wagner involvement. Whether or not the news about Prigozhin has an impact on that is to be seen. But that could very well be an alternative to countering Western sanctions against these countries.